The morning sun poured across the glass facade of the towering corporate building, its golden rays glinting like sparks off the polished steel framework. The plaza below buzzed with energy. Men and women in crisp suits darted to and fro, their briefcases swinging, phones pressed to ears, voices clipped with urgency as if the world spun only at their command. Amid the flurry, a lone figure stood still, almost invisible in his Navy janitor's uniform, a broom in hand and weary eyes scanning the scene. His name was Daniel, a single father whose life was a quiet storm of duty and sacrifice. To the executives rushing past, he was just another maintenance worker, blending into the background of their high-stakes world. But beneath the worn fabric of his uniform beat the heart of a man carrying the weight of two lives, his own and that of his daughter, Lily. 2 years ago, tragedy had ripped his wife from them, leaving Daniel to raise their little girl alone. Every day, he swept floors, polished windows, and hauled trash bins, not for glory, but to keep a roof over Lily's head and a spark of hope in her eyes. That morning felt like any other, deceptively ordinary, until a single moment turned everything upside down. In a heartbeat, Daniel's sharp gaze caught something no one else noticed, a fleeting detail that would change lives forever. With a shout that sliced through the morning air, he cried, "Don't get in the car." In that instant, the world paused, and the most powerful people in that gleaming tower would never see the janitor the same way again. If you believe that courage, kindness, and second chances can spring from the most unexpected places, please hit the like button, share this story with someone who needs a dose of inspiration, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Midnight Tales. Your support helps us share more stories that remind the world that ordinary people can make an extraordinary difference. Daniel's days began long before the sun rose. At 5 a.m., his alarm buzzed in the small, rented apartment he called home on the quieter side of the city. Most mornings, he was already awake, lying in the dim light, staring at the cracks spider webbing across the ceiling. Beside him, curled under a faded blanket, was Lily, his 8-year-old daughter, her dark hair a messy halo, her small arms clutching a stuffed rabbit worn thin from years of love. He leaned over, kissing her forehead softly, whispering promises he prayed he could keep, promises of a better future, of days filled with laughter, of a life where she could dream without limits. He moved quietly, preparing her breakfast, a humble plate of toast, a single egg, and a glass of milk. In her tiny lunchbox, he tucked a folded note with a smiley face, a small gesture to brighten her day. By 6:30 a.m., he was at the corporate tower, his keys jangling on his belt, a mop in one hand, a trash bag in the other. To the employees streaming in, he was invisible, just part of the building's machinery. They didn't see the man who worked 2 shifts to pay the bills, who stayed up late mending Lily's clothes, who carried the grief of loss like a silent companion. But Daniel saw everything. Years of cleaning had honed his senses to notice what others missed, a smudge on a glass panel, a flicker in a light bulb, a crack in a tile. He noticed people, too, their hurried steps, their forced smiles, their quiet moments of despair in the restroom when they thought no one was watching. He carried these fragments of their lives as quietly as he carried the memory of his wife. That morning, around 8 a.m., the CEO arrived, her presence commanding the plaza like a storm rolling in. Catherine Hale, barely in her 30s, had climbed the corporate ladder with the speed of lightning, her sharp eyes and sharper mind cutting through obstacles. Her heels clicked on the marble with the precision of a metronome, her tailored suit a symbol of power. To most, she was untouchable, a force of ambition and control. To Daniel, she was just another person he cleaned up after, though he quietly admired her ability to steer a company of that size. Their worlds were galaxies apart, or so he thought. As Catherine stepped out of the building later that morning, heading toward her sleek black car parked at the curb, something in Daniel's gut tightened. He had always trusted his instincts, they had guided him through the hardest years of his life, raising Lily alone, scraping by on a janitor's wage, navigating a world that rarely spared a glance for men like him. Now, those instincts screamed. The car. Something was wrong. At first, it looked pristine, its polished surface gleaming under the sunlight. But Daniel's trained eyes caught what others missed, a faint wire, barely visible, slipping out from beneath the driver's side door, hidden in the shadow of the chassis. Then he noticed the driver. It wasn't the usual company chauffeur, a man Daniel recognized from countless mornings. This driver sat rigid, his eyes flickering nervously toward Catherine as she approached, his hands twitching near the dashboard. Daniel's heart thudded in his chest. His mind raced, pulling up fragments of late-night crime shows, news reports of corporate sabotage, stories of revenge gone wrong. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't ordinary. Something deadly was waiting. Fear clawed at his throat, but courage pushed him forward. Dropping his broom, he sprinted across the plaza, his boots pounding the pavement, his voice ripping through the morning calm like a siren. "Don't get in the car." Catherine froze, her hand hovering above the door handle. The plaza seemed to hold its breath. Executives turned, startled. Security guards flinched, their hands instinctively reaching for their radios. Who was this janitor, shouting at their CEO? How dare he? But Daniel's arm was raised, his face etched with urgency, his voice raw with desperation. Seconds later, the reason became clear. A faint metallic click echoed from beneath the car, so subtle it could have been mistaken for a pebble shifting underfoot. But in the eerie silence that followed Daniel's cry, it was unmistakable. Catherine's eyes widened, fear flooding her face as she stumbled back. The driver fumbled, his movements panicked, his hands darting towards something near the dashboard. Security guards surged forward, chaos erupting in the once orderly plaza. They pulled Catherine to safety, shielding her as Daniel pointed to the wire under the car. "There's something there," he shouted, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. The guards dropped to the ground, their faces paling as they spotted it, a crude but unmistakable device rigged beneath the vehicle. A bomb. Had Catherine opened that door, had she stepped inside, the car would have erupted in a blaze of fire and shrapnel, ending her life and shaking the company to its core. In those heart-stopping seconds, everything changed. Catherine's life was spared. The company's future was preserved. And it wasn't an executive, a security guard, or a board member who saved the day. It was Daniel, a single dad, a janitor, a man no one looked at twice. The plaza, once a blur of self-important motion, now stood still, all eyes on the man in the navy uniform. Security swarmed the car, cordoning off the area as police sirens wailed in the distance. Catherine, her composure shattered, stared at Daniel, her sharp eyes softening for the first time. She didn't need to ask why he'd acted, his face told the story of a man who knew what was at stake, who understood loss too well to let it happen again. The driver was detained, his nervous demeanor unraveling under scrutiny, later revealed to be part of a plot tied to corporate rivalry. But in that moment, none of it mattered as much as the truth that hung in the air. Daniel had seen what no one else had. His quiet vigilance, honed by years of being overlooked, had saved a life. Word of the incident spread through the tower like wildfire. By noon, Daniel's name was on everyone's lips, not as the janitor, but as the hero. Catherine sought him out, her heels clicking more softly now, her voice stripped of its usual edge. She thanked him, not with grand gestures, but with a quiet sincerity that carried more weight than any boardroom speech. She asked about Lily, about his life, and for the first time, Daniel felt seen. The company offered him a reward, a promotion, a chance to step out of the shadows. But Daniel asked only for one thing, a better future for his daughter. He didn't want fame or riches, just the chance to give Lily the life he'd promised her in those whispered moments before dawn. Days later, the story leaked to the press, and Daniel's face appeared on newsstands and screens across the city. The headline read, "Janitor saves CEO, a hero in plain sight." But Daniel didn't care for the spotlight. He went back to work, his broom in hand, his keys jangling, his heart a little lighter knowing Lily's future was a bit brighter. The tower's employees no longer passed him without a nod or a smile. Catherine made it a point to greet him each morning, her once untouchable aura now tinged with gratitude. The world had been reminded that heroes don't always wear suits or carry badges. Sometimes, they wear faded uniforms, their hands calloused from work, their hearts heavy with dreams for a child. If this story stirred something in you, please hit the like button, share it with friends who need a reminder of what courage looks like, and drop your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done in Daniel's shoes? Would you have noticed the wire, trusted your gut, shouted into the chaos? Share your heart with us below, and don't forget to subscribe to Midnight Tales for more stories that shine a light on the bravery hidden in everyday lives. Your support keeps these tales alive, proving that kindness, courage, and second chances can change the world, one moment at a time. As the sun set on that extraordinary day, Daniel walked home to Lily, his steps steady, his heart full. He wasn't just a janitor anymore. He was a father, a hero, a reminder that the most ordinary among us can shine the brightest when it matters most. Thank you for joining us on Midnight Tales. Until the next story, keep looking for the heroes in the shadows, they're out there, waiting to inspire us all.